Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Apologies for the late start. I should inform you that, in fact, I was happily talking away, thinking I was on, until I received a text saying, "What's going on?" And I thought, "What do you mean, what's going on?" And I'm assuming now that I'm up and on. Whether or not any of you are around, I don't know. I'm sorry. That's on me. I thought I'd done everything right, but alas, as you well know, I am perfectly capable of subverting my own program. So I thought I'd done everything right. There was one little click that I was remiss in performing, and that's the one that says quite clearly, "Go live." I apparently failed to do so. So, guys, I was babbling for the last 7 or 8 minutes here in my own home, and I don't know if it was anything necessarily worth hearing, but I'm afraid I am going to double back and try it all over again. I had noted, as is my wont, that the date is December 4, 2024, that it was a gray day here in Pittsburgh, PA. I also had noted that, well, it doesn't matter what I noted, Cullen, nobody heard it, so just do it again, or do whatever it is you're about to do. I did say good morning, I remember that, and then I went into one of my absurd kinds of wondering what exactly that meant, since it wasn't a particularly good morning for me. Little did I know it was how not a good morning it was, since I wasn't even on. But I began to think that one says good morning as a wish to whoever it is you're saying it to, right? That is what it means. It's not a statement of fact, is it? Good morning, you say. I know, it's a salutation, right? But what does it, we say it, unthinkingly, it's pro forma, but I think it's more of it's like to say to you, I hope it's a good morning, I think. Anyway, guys, this is not a good morning. I mean, I'm sure I'll tell you who it's not a good morning for. And this story is beyond belief. The poor woman who was looking for her cat, and the earth opened up and swallowed her alive. That is so good. It's just something so scary about it, so sort of out of something like in a fairy tale. You're God, here, kitty. And they're still, looking for her. Man, the earth opened up, and it does do that around these parts. I needn't tell you that. We have that wonderful photo, now meme, of the earth opening up in the downtown Pittsburgh, year or so back and swallowing an entire bus. So yeah, I mean, and it just happens. God Almighty, though. Wow. I so feel for her. I hope. No, that's not anything to say. I was gonna say, I was gonna say something terrible. I was gonna say I hope she's dead so she's not suffering. Well, that's. But I don't know. Can you imagine how deep that thing is? If threading cameras and lights down there, they can't see any sign of her. God. And now there's concern that just by being where they are, the people looking for her, that they're in danger of the earth opening up and swallowing them too. Gee whiz. God. You know, all the mining that went on in these parts uh, killed a lot of people. I mean, mining's about as dangerous an industry as you can labor within. It killed people quickly, and it killed people slowly through black lung, or suffocating them, walls caving in. Oh my God, just grow. I mean, horrific death. And that decades and decades and decades after the mines have been closed up, they're still perfectly capable of dealing out death, of swallowing up people whole. Man. So I'm whatever. That story is just so upsetting to me. And there's how are we going to? I'm just. This is now a plea that is also a rhetorical question to you. How are we going to make it through the next year or two or three? I mean, I know we are. I mean, we are. We're going to keep on living our lives, but oh my God, the stuff we're going to see. Oh my God, the news we're going to awake to. Oh my God, the fears we're going to live with. Um, yeah, the child in me is crying inside, saying, "I don't wanna. I really, really don't want to." And I have to tell that child in me, tough toenails, baby. No getting out of here alive. So, yeah, I don't even know again where to start. Did I? And now I'm forgetting what I've talked about this time, as opposed to the time I started the show 8 minutes ago. So, did I? Have I said anything about Hegseth yet? Because that's who I was babbling about when it turns out I wasn't even on. Um, and because my short-term memory is shot because of my chronic marijuana use and also my advanced old age. I can't remember if I was babbling about Hegseth just now in this beginning of today's show, or if it was the beginning of the show before that one. And I think it was the one you didn't hear. So what I was saying is, I bet, and if I'm repeating this to you, I'll be mortified. Oh, thank you, display name. Display name. Ha ha, they say, you've only covered the sinkhole. Well, thank you. So let me then move on to Hegseth, one of the laudable choices of our president-to-be. God almighty. Here was my initial salvo. I had said by the end of the day or tomorrow, I don't know, he's toast. He's gone. We've all lived long enough with the chaos of life under you know who, that certain patterns have been set. So you do sort of get a feeling he's on his way out. It's over. So and then I said, okay, so I'm saying that's two down now, Gaetz and him. There's very little celebration that we can engage in when these guys go down, because they are, of course, then replaced by somebody, if not equally reprehensible, reprehensible enough. And so we hear that DeSantis is potentially being talked to. And I was wondering what his qualifications are. I mean, the only thing I have to say ever about DeSantis is he's a mean son of a bitch. Whoa. But is that a good qualification for running the Pentagon? I don't know. And then there's talk that while Trump is talking to DeSantis, he's also telling DeSantis, so, maybe I'll give you, it's the art of the deal. I'll give you the Pentagon, but you give Laura, my lovely daughter-in-law, you give Laura Marco Rubio's Senate seat. And we'll call it a day. So that could well be going on. The stench of the Trump administration 1 and 2 is just overwhelming. Okay, so I also did say, I reminded anyone who was interested that I had been wondering yesterday if any of these unqualified incompetents that Trump is attempting to elevate to these incredibly important positions, if any of them in quiet moments have been engaged in periods of self-doubt and or imposter syndrome, as of course they should. And it turns out that I think one of them, in fact, had, and it was one that I had even talked about, this apparently perfectly good sheriff in Tampa, because he's now pulled out. And he has said, you're looking at the job a little more closely. I don't think, he said, I'm not qualified. That's what he said. God bless him. Of course, it's being said that that a lot of people around Trump were really pissed off about his appointment. This is to head DEA. Because he had, as the sheriff, actually obeyed and enforced the law in Tampa during COVID. And even, in fact, went after some big mega church that had continued to hold live services when they were told to shut down. And of course, he enforced the law regarding COVID? Well, I don't know how he got past, well, there is no vetting, but there you have it. The other thing, reading about the sheriff, is I found out he's got connections here in Western PA, and here's a name, a blast from the past, if I can find it, DeBartolo. guys. Remember DeBartolo? I vaguely do. Did he own the Pirates at one point? And then parts of the Penguins? And he was sort of a shady character too? I think he went to jail, didn't he? DeBartolo. It turns out the sheriff who was going to head DEA, I think, is married to DeBartolo's daughter. Don't quote me, but I do think that is in fact the case, which is just, a little local fun. Yeah, he said he said while he pondered his initial acceptance of the position that had been offered to him, he said the gravity of this very important responsibility set in. Well, good for him, he said. So he's just going to continue doing the job he knows he can do, which is be the sheriff of Hillsborough County. But yeah, and there was some trouble with his son who I guess cut up somebody and then did a rap song about cutting up somebody, and then was sentenced to 22 months in prison, and then getting out of prison actually released a rap video talking about this great moment in his life, and did a rap which is titled "Slash Yo Face." Excuse me. You can't make it up. Yeah, it says here he married into a family with ties to Trump more than a decade ago. His father-in-law, Edward J. DeBartolo Jr., has donated to Trump's political campaigns and, oh, wow, look at this, and received a pardon. More on pardons later. A pardon from Trump in 2020, which expunged his guilty plea stemming from an extortion plot connected to his attempt to give it a riverboat casino license. Crooks, just friggin' crooks. God. You can't make it up. I got a caller here. Let me just get to here before I go off on a tangent. Hello.
Hi, good morning, Lynn.
Hi.
I was just going to talk about Dan Frankel.
Dan Frankel? Well, that's coming right out of left field for me.
Yeah, I know it's not connected, but I've been on a while. Yeah, he wants to put forth a bill to legalize marijuana in the state of Pennsylvania.
To legalize pot?
So I say 3 cheers. Yeah.
Well, fine. I mean, we're a little.
I say we go for it.
Why not?
We're a little late to the party.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, my God, everybody in yeah, everybody's smoking it.
Make a little extra money. Make a little extra money when you can.
Yeah, I mean, I prefer the state engaging in drug dealing more than gambling. I'd prefer, legalizing marijuana more than running lotteries, personally, if you want to get money.
That's right.
Let's go
420.
Yeah.
420. That's right.
And knowing Pennsylvania, I'm willing to bet that, given our state stores and stuff, I think the pot here will be very pricey. One of the things that I've noted since other states have been legalizing pot and having purchased pot in different states, it's amazing the difference in cost. So some states
I've never really. I haven't done comparison shopping.
Well, let me tell you. Mostly, I get this information from my sister, but I noted it because I did buy some pot when visiting my brother in Michigan, and I had also bought pot while visiting my sister in Illinois. And the
Mm-hmm.
difference in the price is mind blowing. All I want to say is if you can get your pot in Michigan, that's the place to go. It's half the cost of Illinois.
I've done Ohio.
I have
Yeah,
not.
I've done Ohio, Illinois, and Massachusetts. Yeah,
Oh,
but I haven't comparison shopped.
well, I got to tell you, Michigan is practically
I'll get.
giving it away free. I'm not kidding.
Oh, there you go.
You know, my
Well,
sister's been making
I'm.
drug runs. Do you know this? She puts my
She's a mule.
mother in the shotgun seat, and the two of them drive the uh, up the coast of Wisconsin from Green Bay to Upper Michigan. It's I don't know. That's
Uh,
about almost 2 hours, I think. But that's
yeah.
the quickest way. Yeah, they go up to Upper Michigan, and then right across the border, there's a drive-through pot shop.
Wow.
Yeah, and they score a bunch of pot, and then they make the drive back to Green Bay. But I bet there aren't a
Excellent.
lot
And
of
you're.
102-year-old women making pot runs.
I I don't think. And through you, I will know of one. That's awesome.
Well,
Anyway,
hey,
happy holidays,
happy
Lynn.
holidays to you, and thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, nothing like a little levity. Um, yeah. So there you have it. And Milton, of course, you were ahead of me on. He was telling me that DeBartolo received a pardon from Trump in 2020. Okay, so let's talk about the pardon thing. I had noted yesterday, and Susan had agreed with me, that we had no problem whatsoever in Trump. I mean, Trump in Biden letting his son off the hook. Um, but I have to say, I read something today. I read actually a few things today, but the first one I read was something that one of you, Barbara, had sent me, and it too said, got no particular problem with Biden doing what he did, but there is a perverse part of this, and the guy makes a totally good case, because while he understands Biden saying, "Hey, look, my kid never would have been targeted if not for who his father is." People doing what he did never would receive the kind of sentences that potentially he was facing, blah, 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 on and on and on. And all that is true. But this guy was saying, hey, if Biden understandably is so sympathetic to the injustice of what was happening to his own son, then he is truly remiss in not taking that uh, sympathy and sense of wanting to make things a little more just, and applying it to people already rotting away in prisons all over this country. So if Biden is honest about the reasons, there's other people's sons, there's other people's daughters and husbands and wives and fathers that also have more than served their time and should be pardoned or have their sentences commuted. And if in fact, he is to not sully his legacy, as some have suggested, with his pardon of his son. He needs to make his son just one of a multitude of pardons for the thousands and thousands of people in this cruel, punitive country who have more than served a reasonable sentence for whatever crime it is they've been convicted of. And that is so true. So in Biden's final days in office, he needs to pardon, the only word that's coming to my mind, and I'm sorry, is shitload. He needs to pardon a shitload of people. We imprison more people for longer periods than any other so-called civilized country in the world. And since presidents can do what presidents can do, then one of the wondrous things this president can do in his final days is literally pardoning thousands. It turns out he has been extraordinarily stingy in carrying out his presidential pardon power. Incredibly. I mean, he could right now, today, commute all the sentences of anybody on death row, right now. There's people in our prisons who are, in their 80s, in their 90s. He could let them out. There are people, serving 45, 50 years for something that other countries would have given them 3. There are so many people in need of the same sympathy that he understandably had for his own child. So, yeah. I mean, in fact, apparently there are a whole ton of clemency and pardon and commutation requests that have gone through this laborious kind of procedure that are sitting there, that have been vetted, and he's being recommended to follow through and let these people go. All of those should be, but more than that as well. Yeah, it says right here in the Times today, Biden has approved a smaller fraction of the requests for clemency than any other modern president. Wow. Wow. Well, with that little piece of information, I am a little less disposed to cheer his pardon of Hunter. He needs to broaden that baby out. Big time. Barbara sent me another thing I see here. Great headline on it. The Oval Office will become eBay. I'm assuming that, yeah, it's about Trump, of course. It's just everything will be for sale. Everything will be for sale. What a corrupt country. Oh my Milton writes, Ohio, and Milton is in Ohio, so he would know, Ohio's pot prices are so high, it's prohibitive compared to Michigan. Ohio residents, generally, they head to Michigan to buy pot. We're losing as much, she says, Ohio's losing as much in revenue to Michigan as we did before we legalized pot here. Ridiculous. Well, see, my bet is that's what Pennsylvania will do too. They'll make it, they'll legalize it and then make it so expensive that people will say, screw that, I'm heading to the easiest, closest place, where obviously Ohio's not the place to go for us because it's ridiculously expensive. I don't know. I must tell you that, I don't smoke as much pot as I used to, but I used to. Yeah, that was my thing in the evening. And I think it's a great drug. I do like it. But I do worry about kids with it. I wasn't smoking it when I was, and then going to school. And I don't know. I guess I don't know. I don't know. I do worry a bit that it will contribute to the dumbing down of America. Okay. So what else? I'm sorry. Oh, South Korea. Jesus. So one of the things, South Korea, and here's the thing. I look at South Korea. Okay, you got a sort of lawless president there, and he does what Trump has opined and fantasized about doing. Right? Day one, Trump has actually said it. Day one, he wants to declare martial law and start rounding up people he wants to deport. Now, seeing what the South Korean people and their legislature did when their president pulled off this abuse of power so gladdened my heart, because the mobs of South Koreans you see in the streets are not like the mobs of Americans we saw on January 6th. No, they're on the right side. They are trying to protect their constitution and their country's democracy. And the people we had in the streets were doing quite the opposite. So you can look at South Korea and say, wow, these democracies are teetering left, right, and center. But there's a different teetering going on there than is going on here. Their teetering is teetering in the right direction, taking on the president who would destroy their democracy. Our mob in the streets was aiding and abetting the destruction. And I saw, let me see, this, I think this was in the Atlantic, on a piece that was written last night. A right-wing wannabe authoritarian president, a leader who attacks the press and is accused of abusing power for personal gain, uses his power to block investigations into his family's potential corruption, who hopes to stay in office to avoid heading to prison, and only seems to have a concept of a plan to address his nation's inflation and health care, declared martial law earlier today. So this guy is writing about the South Korean president, and when you start reading it, you're thinking only Donald Trump. That is how Trumpian a figure the South Korean guy is. That description of him is correct. Want to be authoritarian, accused of abusing power for personal gain, constantly attacking the press, using his power to block investigations into his corruption and his family corruption, needs to stay in office to avoid prison. All of that's true. And then he does what Trump has said he will do, and the country goes berserk. And they save the country. So I'm getting ahead of myself there too. He's still in office, but it looks like again, like Hegseth, he's on his way out the door. So I was heartened I was initially freaked by his action, and then heartened by the South Korean people. And guys, I so hope to be equally heartened by the American people and their reaction to what is heading our way. Truly. Hey, by the way, I saw something today. If you get your news, I use the term loosely, from Fox News, you have not heard a single word about Hegseth other than he was chosen by Trump to be Secretary of Defense. They have this so-called news operation. They have not reported on a single piece of any of the accusations against him, sexual, financial, having to do with drink, having to do with all his mom's email, all this kind of stuff that has come out and will surely destroy his pathway to the Pentagon. If you watch Fox News, you know nothing. So you can imagine, at some point they'll have to report that he has withdrawn. And what will they say? Oh, I guess all of it. Well, God knows. They have no problem figuring out how to spin just about anything, right? Wow. Hey, I wanna I think I've already mentioned bird flu, but for some reason I'm a little fixated on it because it seems to me, and I keep reading things that makes it more than seems to me. Keep reading things from people who say we ain't doing much of anything about this. What people who are in the know say is this alarming spread of bird flu. And I read something today in the Times by David Leonhardt There was something a few days ago written by David Kessler, who is he was head of the FDA, wasn't he? He was definitely with the FDA, and he was also, well, he said that piece said that he ran Operation Warp Speed, which was that all-out effort to find a vaccine for COVID, that amazingly successful. I mean, vaccines don't happen that quickly. That COVID vaccine was a miracle. And he was a big part of that effort. And he wrote a piece and saying that he's concerned. Well, if he's concerned, guys, then I'm concerned. And the concern is that nothing much is going on. We don't seem to be doing much of anything. And cases we know, are now out of the birds and into cattle and dairy operations. We know that from there they have gotten into humans. And we also know that the virus is mutating. And it's mutated a number of times. And there is, I mean, this was initially Asian. Now it is very much here in North America. There is a particularly troubling human case in Canada of, I believe, a teenager who's critically ill and who had no exposure at all to an infected animal. So there's real, and there's others. There's, as far as is known, there are 4 people that have tested positive for bird flu who did not have contact with a sick animal. What's concerning about that is it suggests potential human to human spread. And guys, all of us survivors of a pandemic, that is what you don't want. That is what we need to be prepared for. There is some kind of vaccine that deals with the initial, as I say, it's mutating. There is a vaccine that is in very short supply and is available to farm workers who are working, who are most in jeopardy. And thus far, only 2 states, and we're one of them, Pennsylvania, the other being Colorado, only 2 states are actually testing milk from farms before pasteurization. Testing milk, because it has shown up in raw milk, testing milk to monitor spread. And this Kessler guy said that's a no-brainer, and that should be happening all over the country. Bulk milk testing should be mandatory. It's not. So without mandatory testing, this bird flu that's out there and is infecting lots of animals, including pigs now as well, is going to keep spreading. And as it grows in spread, it mutates. The risk of mutation goes way, way up. And the risk of it evolving into a human to human kind of transmission that will, in all likelihood, yield another pandemic. You want another pandemic? I don't. That one was enough for me. And the fact that this story seems to be being downplayed is very concerning to me. Kessler says this: no one knows how many mutations will be required to set off a human to human spread. And in fact, it may never happen. But he says the fact that we're not doing much of anything means it could also be 1, 2, or 3 mutations away. And if this particular virus begins to spread among humans, human to human, it will be very difficult to contain, and the likelihood, again, as I said, of a pandemic is very, very high. And this is what the scariest part is, of course. The people who are going to be in charge of public health when and if this happens. You're an educated bunch. I need not go further. But if we have this, and we do have it, this is here. And I don't think it seems like enough's being done now under an administration that showed its capacity to deal with a pandemic in a lot better than a Trump administration. We're going to, I'm just sorry. I'm not a nervous Nelly type, but I'm nervous about this because I'm, like you, now unhappily aware of the horror of a virus on the loose that we do not have enough capacity to contain. Okay, that's that. Now, the other thing I've been wanting to talk about, well, I'm not. There's local news. There's that property tax hike. Those of you who live in Allegheny County, who ever heard of taxes going up anymore? They don't. They never do. Any politician always, I mean, they refuse because it's a death sentence for a politician. So I have to admit, I'm impressed. I'm impressed they did it. I think it is probably necessary because the Fitzgerald administration of the county refused to do the fiscally responsible thing. And he could have done it in a much less onerous way. I mean, this is going to be big, and it's not as big as the county exec in Amorato wanted, but it's a big one. And it puts me in mind of, of all of the tax exempt properties in the area that so piss me off. But I don't even want to talk about that. The local story that I found fascinating is this art installation that's apparently is being ramped up for the new airport. As you know, if you've been to the airport, God, the airport is under construction, and the Pittsburgh airport will not be as you know it. I think relatively soon. I think they're getting close if there's talking art installations already. So there's apparently going to be escalators again, as there are now, but I'm not sure if they're in the same place or what the hell. But some artist is doing a I can't remember where the hell I put the information I had on this. I'm sorry. You know, the problem is I don't have two operating hands right now, because for those of you who don't know, I managed to break one and seriously bang up the other. So they're both sort of hanging here like dead fish. And it's just amazing how much stuff you can't get done. But yeah, I'm not going to be able to find it. I don't know where the hell it is. I'll take one more look. Excuse me. I'm sorry. And again, I can't make notes easily like I usually would do. So it's no wonder I forgot to press that go live button. Oh, here, I actually found it. I found it. So there's a woman, an artist, who's done this kind of thing around the country. And it's a sound. She works in sound. And she is putting together what is going to be called Immersion, a Pittsburgh sound portrait. And it will, so it's nothing you see. This is art on a whole different level. People coming to Pittsburgh will be greeted by the sounds as they descend or ascend the escalators. And there will be these directional speakers that will be putting out the sound. And the sounds are to be an audio representation of Pittsburgh. All right, I'm asking. What the heck would you put in that? I guess it'll be on a loop. I don't think that she already has some stuff that she intends to put in it. I shall let you know what that is. She has, this is stupid, the sounds of ice scraping. I guess scraping ice off your windshield. I don't think that's not a quintessential Pittsburgh sound. She has children placing orders at Gus and Yaya's ice ball cart. That sounds wonderful. I like that one. There's a bird song from the aviary. That's nice. There's a train. Well, again, a train. Well, yeah. I've never lived anywhere where I couldn't hear a train. And I've lived in New York City, and I've lived on a farm, and I've always been able to hear a train. I love it. I love the sound of a train. But that's not Pittsburgh specific. So I think the Pittsburgh fans cheering obviously would be part of it. And she says liturgical singing is being included at St. Anthony's Chapel in Troy Hill. Well, okay. But again, that's Pittsburgh specific sound. I want you to think about that. I mean, If it doesn't have yoy from Myron Cope, then it's bullshit. Am I right or am I not wrong? It's, and I know that's not a particularly pleasant sound, and it might startle some poor soul. And Milton has just, posted, Milton, I just see this. The only appropriate audio representation of Pittsburgh for an art installation is Myron Cope's play-by-play. Yeah, gotta have it. And I don't know about you guys, but as somebody who came to Pittsburgh as a fully grown adult person, the first time I heard Myron, I was like, what the hell? Seriously. But so it could start, like, imagine somebody trying to get on an escalator who might be one of those sort of escalator averse people. And not only that, they're holding a suitcase, and then all of a sudden, yay! They could, be injured. So I don't know if but you have to have Myron. I agree. That's the first thing that comes if there's a sound that is unique to Pittsburgh. It's Myron. But what else? They say other sounds she's going to include are the Pittsburgh Symphony. All right, but again, how does that sound any different than any other friggin' symphony? I mean, better it should be like the Tamburitzans or something. Or it should just be, hey, Yins, some kind of Pittsburghese thingamajig. But it won't, because they'll want it to be artistic. And that would mean not, I don't know. I don't know how this woman's going to pull this off. It says she's nationally known, and she's done this at the Charlotte Convention Center, the Oklahoma City Convention Center, and has other things in LA and Washington, D.C. And she's Mr. Rogers trolley dinging. That's good, Jonathan. Somebody's saying me yelling Jesus. No, I don't think Myron's more than enough. But the artist says this is the place where people come into the airport. This is the place where people are going to leave the airport. And an airport is a place of transition, but also a place of identity. And how can I use this space, this significant space, this architecturally beautiful space, in a way to tell a story about Pittsburgh? Well, I don't know. I don't know. In Margaret's writing, she uses the same soundtrack for all the airports. No. But yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to do symphonies and trains and ice scraping, that's bull. That is anywhere. Well, yeah, almost anywhere. So, anyway, so I think that's it. And yeah, Barbara is telling us of something that happened just as I went on the air the first time when I wasn't really on the air. And it's a pretty startling story about it appeared the murder of the CEO of United Healthcare, um, who was at an annual investor conference, and he was walking into the New York Hilton in on 54th Street, and someone shot him at close range a number of times as he was walking in, and then fled on a bicycle. Cops are saying it doesn't look like it wasn't a target. Um, yeah, He was shot in the chest, taken to Mount Sinai, pronounced dead. So that's, major CEO targeted killing. Wow. That's going to be a story. He's 50 years old. Wow. United Healthcare, just saying. Scraping ice with the Snowies. Well, the Snowies doesn't really scrape the ice, but no, the Snowies ain't gonna make it. But yeah, we gotta. I hope it isn't just same old, same old. And if Myron doesn't make it, we need to shoot the speakers out. I mean, and oh, one more. Sorry, I'm trying, and I can't pick. See, normally if you write in, I pick this thing up, and I can't pick anything up. Hang on. Okay, yeah, something with Mr. Rogers has to be something from the neighborhood. The Dinging Trolley, or any of the songs that are readily known. Definitely. So I'm just saying. Hey, thank you guys. I think I filled out the time from the second start of this production. Thank you all for being there. I haven't apologized for my voice crackly, and I don't know why it is. But there's that. And I appreciate your keeping me company. I truly do. And I'll be back tomorrow, I think. I'm trying to play the outro.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.